My name is Kevin Max, and here I am, standing in front of you on Good Company.
Good Company!
Hey guys, my name's Scott Bowling and you're watching Good Company. Today I have four-time Grammy-winning singer-songwriter, best known for his work in DC Talk. He's got a lot of solo albums out. He's written a novel. He's got a brand new record, AWOL. So, Kevin Max, come on man. Thank you for being here, brother.
Thank you.
How you been?
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate being here.
I'm good.
So how's your new record? You got AWOL. I love this album. It's
Good
very
Company,
catchy.
right?
Good. Hey, that's good. You're Good Company. So what was it like recording this, man? You got AWOL.
It was like a joy, like most of the records I create.
Nice.
It started, I lived on a farm when we started this, and most of the songs were written late at night by myself in the cabin outside. We had a log cabin, and then we had a miniature cabin,
Yeah.
which was the studio, and I would go out, after everybody fell asleep and write in the studio from about midnight till about 4 in the morning.
Wow.
And
That's amazing.
howl with the coyotes and stare at the stars and
Have you always
come
done it
up with
this way?
these weird songs, huh?
Have you always done it that way, or is that a?
No, this was more of an experiment. Like I wanted to make a night album. I wanted to make something, because I had done something like that before, but not all the way. Playing Games with the Shadow was kind of an experiment about writing by myself with nobody around me and just my Casio.
Would you do it again?
keyboard.
Is that?
Yeah, I kind of did with this one, but then I brought in a couple of my friends to co-write with me. But I would definitely do it again.
How many nights did it take for all this? Is this a month?
It took, wow, how many nights to write the album?
Mm-hmm. I mean,
Probably
those
10 nights. There are about 10 songs.
It
It goes pretty
a song
quick.
a night. That's good.
I write pretty quickly. I don't really contextualize what I do or self-edit. I usually let other people tell me, oh, I think, you should do that differently, Kevin. And then I'm like, Kevin doesn't think so. Kevin wants to keep it the same. So, but with this album, AWOL specifically, I'd written a couple of songs. I started with my first bunch of songs with a guy named Kieran Kelly, who reached out to me and said he wanted to write songs with me, and he's a producer in New York City, and basically said, I only want to work with you and Christina Aguilera. And I said, well, that's kind of like completely opposite things. And he said, I know, but he goes, I really appreciate the voice and what you do vocally.
Yeah.
So when we started writing together, and we came up with Melissa, Yeshua, and I'm trying to remember the third song, probably half of the better one together.
That's a great song.
And then I wrote some songs on my own in my studio in Franklin, because then we moved from the farm to Franklin. We sold our farm, moved to Franklin, and I put my studio above my garage. And so subsequently, the next record that I'm releasing, like right after this, which is more of a synth record, is a lot more like Playing Games with the Shadow, where I've written all the songs by myself. But these songs are, I'd say, even more abstract than the last record.
Are you going to use the same band for this? Do you get a different band each time?
Well, for this record, we had Andy Rourke of the Smiths on bass, and Matt Johnson, who plays for St. Vincent, on drums, and my buddy Kieran on guitar, my buddy Eric Cole on guitar. So it was a pretty extravagant band. It was really cool.
Yeah, that sounded really
I
good.
kind of change around players depending on the record. I mean, a little bit more like I'm an experimental person, so I don't tend to like to use the same players over and over again. That kind of bothers people. Because any purists out there are like, well, you need to have your guitar player. You need to have your Mick Ronson or, your George Harrison, somebody that's always the same guy. And I just, I like to stir it up and use different players. So with this, it was a live band. So we played all the music live in New York City in a studio, Kieran Studio. And then after we played the sessions, then I would take the music and bring it over to my studio in Franklin. So from New York to Franklin, I did some overdubs vocally. He flew in from New York City, Kieran Kelly did, and kind of produced and engineered the record at my studio in Franklin.
Wow.
So,
That sounds good. So going back, this kind of the format of the show is I reach back, do all the way back to your first record, DC Talk. Do you remember doing this one?
let me see this real quick. I should probably bring my... well, I look like Emilio Estevez in this album.
Like Breakfast Club?
Like so a bit of a Breakfast Club look. We got the quintessential graffiti in the background, which was really huge in the end of the 80s. Like if you didn't have graffiti behind you, then you weren't legit. We weren't from the street, so this was trying to embody that we were from the street. When in all actuality, I'm from Grand Rapids, Michigan. This guy was from a suburb in DC, and this guy actually was kind of inner city DC. So he would be the most legit street guy, even though Michael Tate's probably the farthest thing from running with a gang. You know?
Yeah.
So,
Oh, that's funny.
I do remember it very vaguely. At that point, I was basically a glorified background singer. This was Toby.
Have you been singing?
This was Toby's vehicle.
Oh,
you know?
is it?
Yeah, I mean, he asked me to sing when we met each other in college, and he had heard that I was singing with a rock and roll group on campus and probably saw me do a couple of performances, and they were probably horrible. But for whatever reason, he saw me and he was like, I want you to sing in this group that I'm starting with this guy named Michael Tate. And I'm like, what is it? He's like, it's rap, but with singing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I'm not a rapper. I'm a singer, though. But I'm not sure if I like rap and singing. So let me see what's up. So then we hung out, and we played a couple shows together. And I thought it was the craziest thing ever. I was like, this is not going to do well. This is going to bomb. And every time we performed, more and more people liked it.
Right.
So I'm like, I can't believe people like this stuff, And then before I knew it, like I started liking it. And I was like, I was drawn into the power of hip hop and melodies put together, so.
Did you guys do any demos, or was this just, this is your first legit time in the studio together?
Yeah, this was the first time we got in the studio together. I had made demos before with a rock and roll band that I was trying to, make happen, which was absolutely horrendous.
Really?
I wasn't horrendous, but the band was. So.
Have you been singing your whole life?
That was kind of a joke. Anyways, have I been singing all my life? Yes. Ever since I was a child, I sang in my mother's womb. And I came out singing to the astonishment of everybody around me. And 4 years old, actually, in all honesty, I was singing pretty developed. And by the time I was in grade school, I was singing in drama stuff and church. And people would just kind of throw Kevin up on stage and go, listen to little Kevin, he's got vibrato,
So you were raised Christian, though? Like you went to church on Sunday? Is that?
Yes. I was adopted as a baby by a wonderful couple, Max and Elaine Smith, who raised me. Definitely raised in the church, and taught all about that growing up. It's interesting because I'm writing a book. I don't want to skip too far forward, but I'm writing a book just now about my life, and it's called Rebel Son, and it's basically about the fact that even though I was brought up in the church, I met my biological parents when I was 30 years old. Found out my bio dad was a musician, rock and roll musician from the 60s. And so, it's interesting, like I've never felt at home in the church. I always had a struggle with it. I never really quite felt a part of it. So, but I have a strong belief system, and I believe in Jesus, and I think that the Christ is what I choose to follow because of his teachings. But I have an issue with church most of the time. So it was rough for me as a kid trying to be a part of the church lifestyle. When I was more into rock and roll and I wanted to be a rock musician, and it wasn't until I was mowing lawn one day and I heard, I had a cassette tape with earphones, and I heard Freddie Mercury singing on the album The Game. And I was like, this is not only something I want to do, but it's, I don't want to do anything else, you know. And it was like this singular moment where I know I'm a singer, I know I'm a musician, I know I love music, and I want to do it no matter what. And I had these aspirations to become like a rock and roll singer, not somebody in the church that was singing. But because I was brought up in the church, I was always singing in choirs and things like that, even though I wanted to be in a rock and roll band. So I always had that you know, juxtaposition a little bit.
Oh, that's a great story. So you guys did the first one, and you're going to this one right here, DC Talk New Thing. How long did you guys tour on the first one? Were you playing a lot of churches for the first one? Sorry.
Again, I want to draw attention to the fact that I look like Emilio Estevez.
What movie is this one?
From The Breakfast Club.
Oh, Breakfast Club. Okay.
I also want to draw attention to the fact that I'm the one not wearing a fanny pack in this picture. And I'm not wearing shorts. And but my jeans are quite high, and they're pegged. So I want to say that this is my childhood we're speaking about here. Yeah, so this was the second album where we decided to get more into songwriting, and again, Toby was the leader in this thing, being the MC. Kind of wrote most of the music, and Mike and I were just singing along for the most part. But we started to develop a little bit more within the band, and wanting to be more than just singers in the band. We wanted to actually start to write more, and that started happening more with Free at Last. But yeah, the song titles are backwards, so I can't read them. But there's a few in here that are scary, but there's a few in here that are a lot of fun. And this is when we started developing into a live act too, and we started to realize that to be successful, we had to be a good performance band. And so we started, you know, getting the performance a lot better. And early days, I stood behind the keyboard because I played keyboards, and so they were like, "Hey, you stand behind the keyboard, and we'll dance around you." And I was like, "Well, that's fine, because I really don't want to dance." You know what I mean? So, because if I start dancing, I start looking like you know, the lead singer of Joy Division.
You don't dance with your new album?
It's a little bit more like, you know, it's a modern dance. It's not a synchronized dance thing. Yeah. So they started realizing that. They tried to have me come out and do dances with them. They're like, "Nope, we're probably going to keep him behind the keyboard singing." You know what I mean? So there were rare occasions where I actually came forward and danced. And then as we went forward into our career, a lot of people noticed when I would dance that there would be a lot of raised eyebrows. Like, what's he trying to say with his dance? And I was just trying to find myself as a dancer, and I don't think I ever did. And I do believe that dancing was not meant for me.
So when you did the dancing kind of stop, I mean, Free at Last would be the last time they ever say, "Hey, will you dance for us?" I mean, what was it like recording Free at Last?
This record was, you can hold that. This record, I started to look more like myself and feel more like myself, and you know, got a little bit of writers on this one too as a songwriter, because I'd always been a songwriter, but I really didn't fit within the construct of the DC Talk songwriting. It just was kind of foreign to me, and even now I find it very hard to write a pop song. Right. So I try really hard to write a pop song. I mean, I kind of wish I had the talent of writing a pop song. That's one thing
Did
that
you-
I'm kind of jealous about.
Did you write it on this album?
A couple of things on this record. Again, this was mainly Toby and a guy named Mark Heimerman, who wrote the majority of that record. And we actually had a couple of hits on the radio on this record, and started to, people started noticing us, and videos started happening, and people started realizing, well, this is kind of like an act that's that can go into bigger arenas, as opposed to just theaters.
And you had your first cover song on here too, right? Jesus All Right? That's
the Doobie Brothers cut, yeah.
nice.
Which eventually, one of my favorite scenarios was, I ended up being able to sing with Michael McDonald on one of his records.
That's cool.
It was amazing, dude. Like
Yeah.
sitting next to him, hey baby, and just hear that voice in your ear as you're singing. It just kind of freaked me out. I'm like, hey, I almost kind of wanted to morph into his vocal.
Yeah, that's great.
I was like, no, you do your thing. So that was that happened a long time after that. I mean, we just, somebody who was a friend of his suggested we sing with him, and I sang. I've done a lot of stuff on other projects that people don't know about. I've sung with Rich Mullins, I've sung with Larry Norman, I've sung with Joanne Cash, I've sung with like lots of people that people wouldn't realize that I've done some duets with. But going back to Free at Last, I mean, that was the first time that I think we were a band that was pretty serious, taken seriously. No longer just kind of like that boy band thing, like, oh, it's three good-looking kids and one of them raps and the other two try to dance and sing. I mean, this started becoming more of a real performance, and the fact that all of us were writers, the fact that we were all interested in music and not just, we weren't a product of some manager going, hey, I want the guy with the long hair to stand over here and wear this, and the guy with the high top fade to wear the, we were individuals. We did what we wanted to do. Except for that video, I Love Rap Music, where they made us dance around in our pajamas, which I still don't get that whole thing. But, we did it because we were like, this would be a great idea, And I think it had something to do with the Fresh Prince or something. Everybody was like mystified by the Fresh Prince and thought it was amazing. So we kind of did our own version of that, I guess. But, I mean, again, if you listen to Free at Last, it's a musical record. It's not just a rap album. It's very musical. And so, and I've got nothing against rap. I'm not a hip-hop artist, so... But somebody that appreciates rap, we started to kind of morph from the full-on hip-hop thing of the first two into more of a full-on band with Free at Last, and then, of course, Jesus Free.
And I got to ask, you guys went on the Crusades, right, with Billy Graham? I remember seeing a couple of shows with you guys. How was that? Did you guys basically open for Billy Graham, just show up and play a couple of songs? Was Michael W. Smith a part of that or something?
Billy Graham... I guess somebody from his team got a hold of us and said, these guys would be really cool to do some shows with you. Of course, he was no stranger to doing cool things before, like, integrating Johnny Cash into what he did. So we were kind of shocked. We were like, really? Billy Graham wants us to come perform for him, because we were pretty high energy, like full stop entertainment quality when it came to the live shows. And so we were like, how's this going to work? And one of the first times we did it, it was amazing. Yeah. And it was just a really great combination of a guy that had a heart for people and a heart for youth and a heart for just humanity, in speaking, really simple truths from the Bible, and us that were like kind of doing the same thing in a way, musically, but a little bit crazy, and so it worked.
That's cool that he reached out to like the younger generation, kept wanting to get moving. Did you have any good conversations with him, Billy Graham?
Not really. I wish I did.
Really?
I should have bothered him more. Just followed him around and said, hey man, so why do you wear suits all the time? But I did have a great conversation with his wife, Ruth, because I had published a book of poetry at the time, and Ruth got my poetry book, and she said, I really like your poetry.
Got your book right here, man.
This is another book I wrote. This
sorry.
is not a poetry book, but we can talk about
That's
this
your
if you
novel.
want to.
Yeah.
This is a fantasy novel about the origin of angels. So
Nice.
this is a bizarre book, nothing like poetry. But the poetry book that I put out called At the Foot of Heaven, she really liked it, so we had a conversation about how she loved poetry, and then she read me a couple of her poems. And I'm kind of in the corner sitting here talking to Ruth, and everybody else is talking to Billy. And I'm like, this is typical for me to go talk to somebody that's not necessarily the main guy. And that's kind of what I did. I mean, I ended up usually talking to the misfits,
Yeah.
And I don't think Ruth is a misfit, but she definitely was the wind beneath that guy's wings, you
Really?
know, behind the scenes for sure.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, that's really awesome. So, Jesus Freak was a huge record. What was it like? When I first heard this, I think it was way ahead of its time. The song Jesus Freak. I remember hearing that, and I was like, man, this is before and this came out in '94.
Yeah.
This is before the big rap rock kind of.
Well, this actually came out in I think it's 96, 95,
95?
96, yeah.
Well, either way, this album kind of. I had never heard anything like this. Basically, when I first heard Jesus Freak, what was it like recording that? I mean, in the studio.
Jesus Freak was interesting because it's the first time that I kind of stepped up as a songwriter and said, I want to be more involved. And I knew that I wanted to do other things beyond DC Talk. And I'd put out this weird poetry book, and I'd done a few things on other people's albums and guested, but I had this desire within me to do my, express myself as an artist, And that's hard to do when you have three very, kind of very strong out front characters. So I went to Toby and I said, man, I'm going to write on this thing, or if not, I'm outie,
Wow. Ultimatum.
I probably didn't mean it, but it was just like, let's see what happens, And he was cool, and he said, yeah, let's get you writing on it, and let's, So I had a lot more to do with writing some of these tunes, but
Yeah.
It was the first time I think that from a succinct standpoint that we all three came together as artists and tried to make something true to who we were as a unit, as opposed to individuals. So that was the reason it became more of a band, because it had a band aesthetic to it. We had live players in the studio. We were bringing in guitar players that were known for being a great guitar player. We were bringing in drummers that were known for doing a certain thing, as opposed to just having guys that played to, an idea of a program. It was kind of like, let's experiment and play live in the studio and kind of come up with these riffs and figure out what we're going to do.
Did you get
Jesus Freak was a great example of that. A kid named Orrin Thornton, he was 19 years old at the time, or maybe even younger, came in and just ripped the guitar solo on Jesus Freak, and we were just like, yes. And that was during the time of, obviously, during the time that grunge had basically taken over. And so you had Pearl Jam and Nirvana and Mudhoney and all, all these bands that people were finding out about, and we found out about it in 1994, 95. Can't remember when the first Nirvana record came out, but I remember listening to it backstage one time for the first time when it first came out and just being blown away like this, because I never, and you're not gonna like that I say this, but I've never really been like a hard rock fan, even though I like certain hard rock.
Yeah.
Like I like Black Sabbath, and I like Zeppelin, and I like AC/DC, but beyond like the classic hard rock stuff, I guess I had kind of a hard time liking certain things. Because my tastes go more European and, Italian suits and crazy haircuts, a lot of synthesizers and things, shoulder pads, but and rock turned into hair metal because of the fusion of those two things,
Right.
which was really scary. But when Nirvana happened, I mean, it was the first taste of something brand new. And I think most people that were there at the time could relate to the fact that this was just like a bomb had been dropped on the music world. It was kind of like what happened when, Bob Dylan went electric, or, when Elvis Presley showed up for the first time. It's kind of like, this is something completely new. And so we were blown away by it, and it made its way onto our record, obviously. I mean, people always say, Jesus Freak is a Nirvana ripoff. When, all honesty, it's a little different, more different than
Yeah, I
that,
thought it was a
because
little different.
there's beats going on, there's synths going on. It's, those verses are a little bit more like the rest of the record, but yeah, the chorus kind of hit as like a grunge chorus.
In that video you guys used, didn't you use some guy that directed, I want to say he directed Nine Inch Nails or something, kind of had a...
Yeah, so the director was a guy named Simon Maxwell, who had directed one of the Nine Inch Nails videos. And
Was everybody on board to go in that direction, make it a little more artsy?
well, at that point, we were kind of being courted by Virgin Records, and pretty much on Virgin Records at the time. They picked us up. But yeah, nobody forced our hand on that. We somebody from Virgin was like, "Hey, you should check out Simon Maxwell." Or maybe I'm wrong on that. It could have been somebody from our camp. Mm-hmm. But regardless, we watched his video and we were like, "Oh my gosh, this guy's amazing." So, so we had no problems with it. Of course, a lot of people were, mad when they found out about that. I mean, I guess like really conservative Christians or whatever, but I never let any of that kind of stuff affect me.
Now, did that video go on MTV? I'm trying to, that was
Yes.
kind of crossover?
Yes.
Were people mad about that when maybe your core fans or?
Probably. People get mad about everything.
Right.
People probably mad that I have feathers in my hat, you know what I mean? Or,
Yeah.
put out weird music. People just get mad too much.
Yeah.
People need to chill. Just realize this.
You should make a chill album. Just
Chill out album. Like the sound of a beach and like the twittering
Just
of
talk
birds. It's
softly.
possible. A little poetry. I could do that.
So you guys did this one next, Supernatural, right? That was a couple of years after you guys probably toured a lot for the first, not the first, but the Jesus Freak album.
Yeah.
Did you guys take any breaks, or was this get off the road and do this album next?
We didn't take any breaks. They never gave us a break. When I say they, the industry, they wanted us out there working.
Really?
Because we were making a ton of cash for everybody. So nobody ever said, "Hey man, let's give those guys a break."
Are you getting burned out?
We took breaks to make records. And back in the day, as you know, sometimes it'd take 3 years before a record came out. But the thing with us is that we were touring 2.5 of those years. Mm-hmm. So yeah, there wasn't much of a break. And for that reason, relationships were difficult and all that kind of stuff because we were always on the road. But I do remember making this record very specifically because my memory is pretty bad, but I can. The later the record, the more I can remember.
Oh.
But this one started off at Miles Copeland's castle in France, and
Wow.
it sounds so pretentious because it is, but it's like we were asked to come out to be a part of this writer workshop. Mm-hmm. And there was Carole King there. There was a guy from Crash Test Dummies.
Yeah.
There
He's
was
from Canada.
somebody from the PJ Harvey band.
Wow.
And then there was Sting's backing band. So Dominic Miller, who is Sting's guitar player.
I wasn't going to say anything, but yeah. I heard it.
I'm a
Police.
Police fan for sure. Police fan for sure. Dominic Miller said, walked in the room and said, "Hey, I want to write something really screwed up." He didn't use those words specifically, but and we said, "Oh, this sounds like fun," So we started writing, and another guy was in there with us named Mark Hudson, who is a big producer and produced Ringo Starr and Ozzy
Wow.
Osbourne and all these people. So, and being a fan of the Beatles and being a fan of Ozzy Osbourne, I was like, man, this is cool. We've got Mark Hudson.
Yeah.
And everybody else was like, oh, wait, but we got like Dominic Miller from Sting's band. I'm like, no, Mark Hudson. He produced Ozzy Osbourne.
Yeah.
So we wrote My Friend So Long.
Great video, too. I love that video.
And off that riff, that was Dominic
that's
Miller.
cool.
So that's what started that whole record. And then we wrote It's Killing Me there. And I think we wrote the beginning of Into Jesus there or something like that. So, but the songs like Dive, Consume Me, Red Letters, all that stuff kind of happened at our studio in Franklin, House of Insomnia. You know, I started doing more of the poetry thing again, Treason at Seas. There's a poem on there at the very end. And there was a hidden poem on the Jesus Freak record, too. So
cool.
I was always interjecting my poetry, and the other guys were like, oh, God, it's poetry.
So once you were in with Jesus Freak about writing for this album, for Supernatural, did you talk to the guys and say, I want to write from now on? I mean, did you write for this album, too?
Yes. All of us wrote every song together on that record.
Oh.
So it was the first record that we actually wrote as a band. Every song, top down. So yeah, it has more of a musical vibe to it because of that. I was kind of stretching things because I was a Beatles fan, and I wanted Beatles melodies, and I wanted Beach Boys melodies and things like that, and Queen melodies.
Did the other guys like that?
Yeah,
that's cool.
Absolutely. And you know, Michael started, you know, coming out of his shell as a songwriter, and Toby's the constant, you know, hip hop guy in this band, but he also started kind of crossing over those last two albums as a singer, and so he was painfully insecure about it, because if you think about it, he's sitting between two of the best singers in that industry. And I say that about myself. It's horrible. I'm going to get struck by lightning. You know, pride cometh before. I'm going to fall off the chair. You know, I'll say Michael Tate's one of the best singers in the industry. And to Toby's credit, like, he developed a singing voice that was really great and a style that was his own.
Wow.
And so it morphed into an actual band. It was no longer really kind of a hip hop spectacle. It was more like a combined fusion thing, you know, which kind of went to, in a way, kind of make the way for bands like 21 Pilots and things like that. You know what I mean? Because it was the first. We were really the first band that really bridged singing and rap into almost kind of this Euro rock thing too. Not many people were doing all those things at the same time in rock and roll. So, I mean, actually, the first time I heard rock and roll with hip hop was Run DMC, Raising Hell.
Nice, classic.
Which I was like, it's amazing. Yes. And then when I heard the Beastie Boys come out with License to Ill, you know, it's like, that's amazing too, you know. And
that one, I mean, when License to Ill came out, I mean, the first DC Talk came out in '89, so that wasn't that far.
No.
That's pretty neat.
But Toby was more about like trying to, I guess, like, he was doing more of the LL Cool J thing as opposed to the Beastie Boys thing. But I mean, Toby had his own style from the very beginning, and you know, he predates Eminem and all those guys. But there's a lot to think about when I think about him, because, you know, to start out as like a hip hop guy and then to go over into a singing thing, it must have been really hard for him, you know. But he did a really cool transition. But I think that Supernatural could have been the nail in the coffin too, because we had gone so far into the musical elements, that he might have gotten a little lost in that, you know, and like, where am I? Where's my voice, you know? But because of the fact that we needed a break, we were getting, as I saw Steve Perry in an interview just the other day, talking about getting toasty or crispy is what he called it. At the end of all those Journey tours, you know, he started getting crispy. We were beyond crispy. We were toast, you know. We were just like, we need a break.
Wow.
Just because we had never taken one, and we'd never been able to kind of like stand back and go, what would I do? You know, what should I do? Or, you know. And I like to say this, I mean, it's kind of like, I think it was Providence that brought us together. I also think it's Providence that we went our separate ways and did solo records, because each of us have done so much in the solo world as well. And we've been able to create things that we're in love with. And I think that we all now have completely different crowds. I mean, I know the crowd that listens to me is completely different than the crowd that listens to Toby, or Mike. So it's kind of like, I think there's something beautiful in the fact that we went 3 different directions.
Did you guys talk about going in different directions and possibly doing an album, then coming back and doing another DC Talk? Or was
Yeah, absolutely. That's why the name was called Intermission. I mean, people for the for the last thing that we did together, people always like, oh, they called it Intermission, and they never came back together. They never wanted to. That wasn't true. We thought about coming back together after one solo album. Just so happened that we had so much fun doing solo records that it was hard to get back into it. And we won a Grammy for the solo EP, which was 2 songs from each guy's solo.
I saw that, yeah.
And I feel a little guilty about that one. I was like, wow, we just won a Grammy for not even a full record. I mean, we were just throwing stuff out there. It wasn't even like our best songs on the record, but it won a Grammy because of whatever, and I don't fault the Grammy Association for that. Thank you, Grammys.
Yeah, it's after that.
For giving me 4 then, that was cool. But it's, that was the beginning of us just really getting into a groove where we found out who we were as songwriters. It's a lot like the Beatles in the fact that, together the Beatles made a very specific type of music, which was absolutely one of a kind, and some would argue the best music ever created.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I truly believe so. I think the Beatles kind of did it all first.
Short-lived,
Everybody
too.
else is just trying to figure it out after that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They basically came up with all the cool ideas, and we're all doing fabrications of those ideas now. But, it was the first time that we kind of broke apart, and I think people could see, oh, that part of DC Talk is in his music. Oh, that part of DC Talk is in his music. So it's kind of like the Beatles when, Paul McCartney went off and did his thing. You can hear like all those really specifically melodic things going on. And then when you heard John Lennon's record, you realized, oh, he did that kind of thing. He brought that to it. And George Harrison did this,
Oh, that's a great point.
And Ringo Starr just played drums. But
Yeah, he was the second drummer too, right?
yeah. Ringo's got some good records. I'm kidding. I love you, Ringo.
Can you talk about Audio Adrenaline? How did you hook up with those guys? Kings and Queens. Great album.
So we skipped all my solo work and went to...
we will come back to your solo.
No. This is your program, so we got to do...
We're going to go to your solo.
We got to do what you got to do. There's a lot of people here, by the way. You guys can't see this off camera, but there's a lot of folks here. And I hope they're not being bored by me.
No,
Some of them are falling asleep. Kings and Queens. By the way, I wish I had the photo I could show you. I would have showed you the original photo, or the original artwork was absolutely intense. It was a painting that this guy had drawn about a boy and a girl, really abstract, with like a village in the background and really bizarre colors, and then 3 stripes somewhere in the middle of the painting somewhere. And whoever was dealing with artwork was like, I think those 3 stripes are it. And I'm like, no, wait a second. You're taking a piece of art and then putting 3 stripes out there. It's horrendous. But the the music was a huge construction of different songwriters and things. I wrote on just about every song, but there were
cool.
2 or 3 huge pop writers with me writing these songs. Because there's nothing weird on here. So that'll tell you that it's not all me. It's like somebody else with a brain to write a pop song wrote these tunes. And Kings and Queens specifically was written by about 3 or 4 writers. And my friend Juan Otero was one of those writers, and he was a dancer in DC Talk.
Wow.
Kings and Queens kind of came out of nowhere, the song, and then we constructed the album after that. I was asked by Mark Stewart and Wes Campbell, who managed Newsboys. He had talked to Mark Stewart about the fact that they might want to rekindle Audio Adrenaline, but Mark can't sing because he has vocal spasmodia, so he couldn't sing physically. So they said, who can we get? And, of course they started talking about people, and Wes Campbell was like, well, Kevin Max. And Mark was like, well, that's kind of obvious. You got Michael Tate to sing for Newsboys. Now you're going to put Kevin Max in Audio Adrenaline. That's kind of weird. And so when they came to ask me, I thought the same thing. I was just like, you know, you could. I mean, I'm gonna bring it into a different vibe than what Audio Adrenaline did, and I think that's a good move because it's not going to sound like Mark Stewart.
Yeah.
But it might move us. I said it might move the too far over because of my voice is very specific. But they weren't scared of that, and then I was like, okay, cool, let's do it. I hope you don't mind that there's vibrato on this record because that's what I do. You know what I mean? And so, funny enough, you know, we got the Kings of Queens song together, and one of the radio A&R guys, and these are guys that know absolutely nothing about writing songs, but they're put in positions called A&R for radio. Said, "Well, you can't sing with that much vibrato."
Oh.
And I'm like, well, I mean, do you know who you asked? I mean, it's like literally like asking, you know, like Elvis to sing in a track without vibrato. It's like, really? So I sang without as much vibrato, and you know, then they used it. They were like, cool.
Oh,
so then the rest of the record was kind of like me being able to do what I did. But the single was more like, we want it to be, you know, and that's the song. It's a big song. But what's cool about it is, you know, the reason that we united this thing together was because Mark and Will run an organization in Haiti called Hands and Feet, which is they have an orphanage there and an outreach to displaced children all over Haiti. And
Mark still works there, right?
Really cool thing. I've been there twice, and it's just like these kids are amazing, you know.
Oh, that's really cool.
And what's cool about them is that they're not trying to like adopt them to families. They're just taking care of them. They're giving them skills. They're giving them tools to learn how to work and to basically assimilate back into the Haitian culture.
Wow.
And it's incredible. So when they asked me to do that, I was like, it's a no-brainer. I'm like, what? I get to do something good and sing on a record? Absolutely. So we raised quite a bit of money for Hands and Feet and for Haiti through that record. And so if I did anything right, that was that.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And so you didn't do a second record, you just did one and kind of...
Yeah, and then I kind of said hasta la vista. It was fun, but, you know, I wanted to make a more rock and roll record the second time around. I mean, I was envisioning, you know, Audio Adrenaline going more for like going more of a Killers, Muse kind of path, and nobody was really into that idea. So I was like, see ya. You know, they tried to get a couple other singers to make it work, and it just didn't work. And it's no longer now. But it, you know, the heart of what made that group cool was Mark, Will, you know, being in this company called Hands and Feet that were, you know, helping kids and, you know, really taking care of the poor. And I mean, that's just, you know, that's as Jesus as it gets. So I was like, yeah, man.
Do you still keep in contact with Mark and go down
there?
Yeah,
he's my neighbor.
Oh, is he?
He's a couple streets over from my house, but he's on the road now in his RV.
Oh,
he got me into the RV life. So now I'm into RVs. And people they look at me and they're like, you don't seem like an RV person. And I'm like, well, no. I mean, if I had my druthers, I'd have probably a hydroplane or something that was outfitted like that thing in Star Wars 3. But the RV is calling because we've got 4 kids.
Yeah.
And they're all homeschooled. So I do all these shows, and we're like, well, let's take them on the road with me. And so I'm kind of going back to my hippie roots and just like taking all these kids on the road, and they're going to learn, you know, what it's like to do shows across America, and hopefully we can take it over to Europe. And
when you do these shows and kind of going through your solo stuff, do you go, how do you choose the set list? Because I got your first solo, right? I know we kind of skipped it, but we do have your solo stuff. How do you pick the set list for as much music.
Let's go
as you
through
got.
each of them. Okay.
Let's do it.
Let's do it real quick. Stereotype B.
This is a great album too, man.
That's a great album.
Yes,
5
great
out of 5 stars. Imposter. Interesting hair. 4 out of 5 stars.
Is that Breakfast Club at all, or
No,
we're past that?
that's I don't even know what that is. That's an androgynous vampire. Between the Fence and the Universe, second album actually. This came before Imposter. 5 stars. I have to say, if you can check this one out, this is a good one. And that's a rock and roll record. I mean,
Yeah.
this record. Let's talk about this for a second.
Yeah, definitely.
So Stereotype B is talked about a lot because it had Adrian Belew and
Yeah.
Tony Levin and all these incredible people, and the songs were out there, and it was kind of like Beatles meets, I don't know, somebody really strange like Scott Walker. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so this record was me actually going, I'm gonna make a rock record. So 21st Century Darlings is like a full-on just rock beast,
Yeah.
you know. And I'm screaming and I'm doing all my, trying to be a rock star thing. And so this record's great. And I still perform a lot of songs off this record today. I still perform Stranded live, Stranded 72.5, and I still perform 21st Century Darlings once in a while. So, yeah.
So, do you like screaming on albums too?
I'm not into screamo. I think that's weird. If you got to scream to sell records, man, let's get into
Cookie Monster.
get into cage fighting.
Yeah.
Try something else. I don't know. I just don't. It's not my thing. But I gotta be careful. A lot of screamo people out there are gonna hunt me down, man.
So this one, talk about this when you're doing all these old songs like The Cross.
So this
Old Rugged
record,
Cross.
I decided to go from rock and roll
Yeah.
to I'm gonna be like a gospel singer. And that worked out not so great. I mean, people didn't really believe, hey, Kevin Max is a gospel singer, even though,
You should have done this with Billy Graham.
I'm a Jesus freak. I wasn't really cut out to be a gospel singer, but
Yeah.
I will say there's some great cuts on this one. The Cross, I covered Prince, and I got the other two guys to sing with me on that one. And the Prince cover of The Cross is pretty awesome.
That's cool.
My favorite is Trouble of the World. That is a old gospel standard, very bluesy, very swampy, and then They Won't Go When I Go, which was a Stevie Wonder cut.
Nice.
And we so there's a lot of cool things. Joanne Cash, Johnny Cash's sister, sang with me on this one. I wrote a song called One Way, One Blood on this record that was trying to be Johnny Cash, and then I got Johnny Cash's sister to sing with me.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
And I wear all black all the time, so that should tell you
What was it like
something
meeting
about my
her?
personality.
What's her name? Roseanne? What's her name? I'm trying to remember.
Joanne is his
Joanne,
sister.
yes,
Roseanne is his daughter.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. There you go. That's really neat. That'd be cool with Stevie Wonder, though. Like you sang with Michael McDonald. What if you sang with Stevie Wonder? That'd be really.
I don't
cool.
know what I'd do if I could sing with Stevie Wonder. I mean, I would. I think he'd like my voice, but man, I mean, he's just a master. I mean, Lady Gaga did it. Right? Did she sing with him?
It seems like she would.
Who sang with him? No, I'm thinking Tony Bennett.
Oh yeah, she did a
no,
tour with
Stevie
Tony Bennett.
Wonder
Yeah.
sang with Tony Bennett on his duets record, and it's the best duet ever on that whole album. He just took everybody to school, took everybody to vocal 101, and he still does.
Is that you like?
Probably the best singer on the face of the planet, maybe after Nat King Cole, just from the standpoint of Nat King Cole had that tone, but Stevie Wonder can do anything with his voice. I would consider myself a little further down the totem pole from that. Not much.
Just a little. All right, next.
There's people back there that are smiling at that statement, and then some people aren't smiling, and they have their hands crossed like this, like,
They're told to be that way the entire time.
I'm a Chris Tomlin fan.
So what direction right here? This is it's cool.
This was a typical Kevin Max direction, where it means that it goes into another alternate reality, and we leave Earth and go to some place that has never been visited before, and that's called Coates DMR, True Rebels. And this one has a song called On Your Bike, which I wrote with Ted T, who did the Mute Math record, first Mute Math record.
Yeah, I know.
And then the rest of these I wrote by myself. My favorite track on this is Unholy Triad and Even When It Hurts. There's a song on here called Death to CCM. It's a keyboard song, instrumental.
Do you still play keyboards?
Train to Transylvania. Try to say that fast 15 times. Train to Transylvania. Yeah, I play the keyboard still.
Yeah, that's cool.
All the time. I mean, AWOL was written on my keyboard. Playing Games of the Shadow was written all on my keyboard, and then I had better musicians come in and make it sound better.
Do you play any other instruments or just keyboard? And do you play drums?
I can play guitar. I play 2 or 3 chords on the guitar and fake my way through it. Bass, no, but I'd love to.
Yeah.
I play this, man.
That's perfect.
But yeah, I'd love to play bass. Bass is my favorite.
Broken Temple, it's cool.
Broken Temples is this is my son. My son.
Oh, yeah.
I have a boy that's autistic. His name is Wilder. I have a boy named Knightley and a girl named London and another girl named Lady. Wilder is really cool. He's on the autism spectrum, but he's very high functioning, so people don't know he's autistic. And a lot of times he doesn't know he's autistic, but sometimes it comes out. And we were just hanging out at a park down the street from my house one day, and he was on this big rock and doing poses and stuff. And I was taking his picture, and I took this picture, and I was
Is that
like,
from your phone?
yeah, that's from my iPhone. And I was like, man, that's really cool. So then there was this thing on iPhone app that you could blend 2 photos together. So I took a 8x10 photo that somebody took of me. I think my friend Robbie Klein, a photographer, took this picture of my face, and I put it over the picture that I took of Wilder. Cool. But yeah, enough about art. Let's talk about the music.
Yeah.
This record was written with a lot of different people in Nashville. This is the first record after I left Audio Adrenaline to go solo again, and I wrote with a lot of friends in the city that were, I would say, kind of pop writers, rock and roll writers, interesting writers, but I was, most of these were my demos, but I bring somebody else in to help me. So this is Kevin Max trying to go pop again.
Okay, right after.
But failing. So I tried and I failed over and over again to be a pop musician. But if you like pop music and you like alternative music mixed together, this would be your record to go to. I give this 3.5 stars.
Oh man, just 3. But this album right here has an awesome music video.
This album is my spirit
eyes.
Animal, the Pink Tiger.
Pink vinyl too.
It's my spirit animal, the Pink Tiger. Actually, my favorite animal is the bat. I like bats because they look like flying wolves, and I like wolves too. But this album is me 100% personified. Wrote every song on my keyboard. And my great friend John Painter of the band Fleming and John, who plays in Steve Taylor's Perfect Foil band. Yeah. And he's done many of my records with me as far as an engineer and a producer, and he plays in my band. He's my bass player.
Really?
So, yes. So he took my songs and put instrumentation to them, and I had Stu G from Delirious play guitar on this, and but these are all my tunes. The weird songs that I wrote late at night in the barn or on the farm next to the barn with coyotes howling, and the coyotes got so, and I'm not lying about this, the coyotes got so loud that I'd have to turn speakers up because I couldn't hear what I was doing.
Oh.
Because I lived at the top of a hill in the middle of nowhere, and all these
that's so creepy. So
coyotes would come around because I had horses and cows and stuff, so they'd come up trying to like steal. Yeah, so I never saw them. I'd go out, I'd
just hear them?
Run out with my, gun, and and then they'd all scatter. I could never find them. Like I was hoping, like one time I'd get to see one.
Wow.
I don't know if I'd shoot one, but I always waved the gun around like I was going to, you know. But,
You announce it.
I'm not big into shooting animals. I just my dad's brothers growing up were all hunters and stuff.
Yeah, I'm not either.
And they'd take me out in the woods and be like, you know, you got to get your first deer, boy. And be like, no, I don't. No, I don't.
What makes you
What did
want
they ever do to you? You know?
True, man. What makes you want to put this on a vinyl? I mean, this is cool, having all the artwork. And I mean, are you going to plan on doing any of the other stuff on vinyl? I mean, you got these last two
After
been on vinyl.
AWOL, I think I'm done with vinyl for a while.
Really?
It's so difficult to get it done in a good time.
It takes a while.
It's not. It takes a while.
Mm-hmm.
It's expensive, and a lot of people. And I ship to people all over the world. So I've got people in China and Malaysia and Australia. And hey, my vinyl was bent. I need a new one. I'm like, well, it just went. It traveled in a box all the way to Malaysia. I mean, I can't tell somebody not to bend that. You know what I mean? And so I think I'm going digital only for a while.
Okay.
So people that love vinyl just gonna have to like suck it up and buy the old stuff, and then once vinyl gets really, really easy to make and they can make it within like a week, then I'll get back into it again.
What about cassette? Should go cassette.
I love cassettes, dude.
Me too, man.
Not many cars.
It doesn't matter about
I want to
cars.
build a cassette into my RV.
Yeah.
Like, how
that's
cool would that be?
Yeah.
Then
That'd
I can
be-
play my ABBA greatest hits on cassette. Yeah.
Hall and Oates.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I like Hall & Oates.
Me too.
More Hall than Oates, but I like
Oh, so you got your next one, Serve Somebody. Right there.
This is kind of who I am right now, as you can see. My hair's still growing out, so I wore a hat today because my hair's kind of growing out, and when it grows out, it does really strange things. Like I grow hair so quickly that I'm literally always in a.
You should get dreadlocks. It'd be easier to just
Yeah,
have
like-
dreads.
No. I saw one of those guys on your show with that, and I was like, I'm never
Brian
gonna do that
Watts?
to my hair. Ever.
Can't get them wet because it smells.
It's just you wear a really nice Italian suit with that kind of look, and it just doesn't go out. You have to be in leathers, But hi, Brian Welch, how are you, buddy? If you ever watch this, which you probably won't, but you should.
I'm going to tag him now that you said that.
So this is me doing another covers record.
Carrie is on there, right? You do that?
Kiri is on here. We did Gotta Serve Somebody by Dylan. We did Let the Day Begin by The Call. We did a U2 cover on here, like the unnameable cover to cover is U2, I guess. And
You guys did Audio Adrenaline did a YouTube cover. Didn't you guys do it?
maybe live?
Yeah, maybe live. I just want to say those.
Not on the record, but
Okay, you're right. Maybe not on the record.
this I give a solid 4 stars. Good try. Good try, Kevin. I have another record that you don't have up here, I guarantee you. It's called Starry Eye Surprise, which was a record that
Yeah,
I
I've seen
did
that. Is it green?
right before that. It's green.
Yeah.
And I look like a 50s singer. My hair is all slicked back. And that record gets 5 stars.
Is it?
That one was a much better covers record. And I went all over the map with that one, from the church to a Disney song to Sunglasses at Night by Corey Hart to,
Oh, cool.
Moon River to my favorite band, The Smiths. I did Last Night I Dreamt Somebody Loved Me by The Smiths. So but it's all there, man.
That's
That
awesome.
one gets a solid 5 stars, and you don't have that.
I know. I'm sorry.
That's what I'm thinking. Like, this show is just
It's the almost.
this show gets 4 stars because it didn't know what Starry Eye
it
Surprise
should be called
was.
Almost Good Company. See, it's almost there.
Oh wait, she's got one over there. Go ahead and bring it on camera if you can, because this is important. I want to take the time, and you're super cool to have me on here, and I like
absolutely,
you as
yeah.
a person already.
Thank you.
But if you
Here it is.
yeah, so you want to hold it?
No,
Because
no, I mean,
you're
you
the
can
host.
hold- no, you hold it.
So this record, if you don't have it, go out and get it. You can get it for free on Apple Music and Spotify, just like everybody else in the world that cuts all the artists out from making a living. But go out and do that regardless, and check this out. This is a solid 5 stars. Nature Boy, which is a song written by Eden Nabez. Moon Over Bourbon Street, written by Sting. Strangers in the Night, the Frank Sinatra classic. When You Wish Upon a Star, Disney. Last Night I Dreamt, The Smiths. Endless Sleep, a 50s classic. Sunglasses at Night. Corey Hart, I Only Have Eyes for You. I don't know. Under the Milky Way, The Church, and then Moon River, obviously from Breakfast at Tiffany's. So this this is, I condone and what do you say when you put your stamp of approval on it?
You put your stamp of approval on it.
Yeah.
Just say
Like
that.
if I was a monarch,
Yeah.
there'd be a royal stamp on it.
Yes.
But I'm the composite of Vikings and Irish people, so you know.
Well, actually, because you're on the show, we actually have a gift for you. Or I have a gift for you. Here's my brother. Here you go, man. This is your...
Oh wow, dude!
Yeah.
Wow.
This is me telling you thank you for being on here, man. I grew up listening to you.
Isn't this cool, you guys?
Yeah. You see, you got this right there, and the sticker.
This is amazing. This is amazing. Thank you for
No
this.
problem. No problem.
This album gets 4.5 stars out of 5. And I don't know why we do 5 stars. You know what I mean? It should be 10 stars. So this would be 9.5 stars. The only reason that it gets a half a star is because I still haven't paid my producer yet. So. But hey,
Just give him the award and say thanks. And then you should
that
be-
is super cool, man. I really get to
problem,
keep
man.
that.
Yeah, man, it's for you. Look, it's
Man.
presented to Kevin.
I'm gonna put that in the RV in the bathroom, so whenever the kids use the bathroom, they realize Dad is still a rock star.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Well, thank you for being here, man.
Thank
I'm gonna
you.
flip this over here.
thank you.
Dude, I appreciate it a lot, brother. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
I hope it was good for you. It was good for me.
It was good.
And to all the people watching Good Company, this is really good.